6:30. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
roll call.
Crave here.
Dolphin here.
Schneider here.
Jurgis here.
All right, do a verification of proper meeting notices being posted. Brings us down to our agenda this evening. Are there any changes or alterations to the agenda?
No, just to point out that on Monday, we did revise the agenda to include that concessions in the field house, new business, item D, so then everything else slid down and changed letters. Your agenda is different, but the motions document, of course, is still missing that one. So anyway, that was all done prior to the proper posting, and the proper postings were done on time, so should be good to go.
All right, hearing that, I'd look for a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll move to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second it.
Okay, got a motion on the floor by Ms. Kwame, seconded by Mr. Jurgis. Excuse me, to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries on a 6-0 vote. Excuse me. Brings us to the action of the minutes from the regular meeting of November 13th in the closed session. Are there any changes or noted corrections for said minutes, meeting minutes?
Nope.
So move for approval.
Okay, got a motion by Mr. Crave to approve as presented. Is there a second?
I will second.
Seconded by Mr. Dolphin. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, 6-0 vote. Brings us to the minutes from the regular meeting on December 11th, in the open session. Again, any noted corrections, changes here?
Move for approval.
Kwame will second.
Okay, I've got a motion on the floor by Mr. Crave, seconded by Ms. Kwame, to approve the meeting minutes from December 11th of 2024 as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries on the 6-0 vote. And finally, brings us to the minutes from the regular meeting on December 11th of 2024 in the closed session.
So move for approval.
Kwame will second.
Okay, I've got a motion on the floor by Mr. Craig, seconded by Ms. Kwame, to approve as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries on the 6-0 vote. We will turn the floor over to Mr. Paul France with Baker Tilly for a report on the financials this evening. So, sir, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good evening. Thanks for the warm introduction. I've been a new face to many of you in the room. And Paul France, principal with Baker Tilly in Milwaukee, and this is our first year working with the district as the external auditor. In front of you, I believe you have 3 bound documents. Those are the ultimate outcomes from the audit process. One should be labeled the financial statements. That houses the financial audit information. One will be labeled audit results. That is our standard communication on professional standards that we need to discuss with you. We choose to put that in writing. I will briefly talk on that in a minute. And then lastly, the single audit document. Because the district receives and expends more than $750,000 of federal money within the last fiscal year. When that takes place, a compliance audit needs to be completed over those federal grants. And in Wisconsin, when you have a federal single audit, you also get a state single audit. And so we've completed that. Ultimately, within that financial statement document, starting on page 1, you'll find our independent auditor opinion. We issued an unmodified opinion, also known as a clean bill of health. When you hire an external auditor, this is the outcome that you're looking to hear. It's the highest level of assurance that we can provide you. And what that opinion means is that all necessary disclosures within that document have been included. All necessary accounting principles have been adopted and applied consistently year over year by management, and that all financial information within that document is materially correct. And so, again, to summarize, that's what you want to hear from your external auditor. In there, I won't go into too much financial data, but I will highlight a few things. In your general fund, on page 12 of the pass out, you'll see a breakdown of fund balance for your general fund, the main operating fund for the district. End of the year with just over $2,863,000 in fund balance. The majority of that sitting in unassigned fund balance. Unassigned fund balance really is the reserves of that fund. And so in the case of the general fund, that main operating fund, that's the true reserve at the point in time of the audit at June 30. What I like to do is take that reserve unassigned category, divide it by your total expenditures in that fund to kind of come up with a percentage of health and do a little aspect of what I would expect to see. And so I take that unassigned category, divide it by the expenditures and other uses. Your percentage is 24%. I look for that to be somewhere between 10 to 25%. So you're right in the range of a healthy, strong financial position in your general fund, meaning again that you've got cash reserves on hand to cover unexpected expenditures. And again, a strong financial position. I do have communities that fall below that 10% and well above the 25%. Really, at the end of the day, you want to know what's in your reserves. You want to make sure you've got a plan for that. If you're getting over that percent, it's something that, from the audit standpoint, we will look to see the trend as we get more familiar with the district on how that's trending and share that information in context in the future. The audit results letter, like I mentioned, has some required communications that we need to have with you. That document lays out kind of the responsibilities of the auditor, responsibilities of management, lays out what our audit plan is, what we look at, what we kick the tires on. We communicate one material weakness in there. It's a material weakness that I know has been discussed in years past. And is also very common for entities of your size, and it relates to the material weakness over financial reporting. And what that's telling you as the governing body is that you've made the choice to outsource preparing that financial statement document that I referenced first. That you don't have a CPA on staff who specializes in governmental accounting, and that is a cost-benefit decision that's made. It doesn't make sense to have somebody on staff at that expertise. Certainly it's not a reflection of what Susie's not doing, because the audit process was as smooth as I would have hoped in transitioning in a new audit client. She was well organized. The day-to-day activity of the audit and really a representation of how the day-to-day operations go brought no concerns to light to share with you. And what that tells me is that the financial information that you're getting from her throughout the year is strong and reliable. And in my opinion, it's one of the best compliments that I could give you, is that again, you're getting financial data that you can rely on in making the decisions that you're tasked to do. Continuing in that document, I do have to highlight under our professional standards that there are new accounting principles that we adopted, which were done this year, but we'll work with Susie in future years to make sure, again, we're staying in line with what needs to be adopted and applied within the reports. We list out any accounting estimates that we evaluated during the course of the audit. That's listed in there so that you're aware of what estimates are included within the financial statements, and I'm happy to say that all estimates that management had for us were clear, neutral, and non-biased. So in plain English, they're good to be within the report. Had we had any difficulties in the audit, they'd be listed in here. truthfully, you would have heard about them long before seeing anything like it in writing, and as I alluded to, things went very smooth. Lastly, there's a section within that report that talks about non-attest services. These would be non-audit services that we provide to the district. So if it's, again, preparing the financial statements, if we identify journal entries, working through the data collection form, and why it's important that we highlight and assess those is at the end of the day, in order for me to be able to give you the independent auditor opinion that I referenced when I began my presentation, I have to determine that the firm Baker Tilly is independent after providing the services. Happy to say that they're all common services that we do provide to our attest clients, and ultimately allowed us to issue the opinion that you would have hoped to hear. At the back of that document, it does lay out a two-way communication. Our attempt in reaching out to you as the governing body as we look forward to the June 30, 2025 audit. There's things that you want us to kick the tires differently on. Kind of lays out the timeline that we need to know that information on. At the end of the day, we do work for you, and we do use the professional standards to kind of drive out what we do from an audit standpoint. But if there are areas of concerns or things that you want us to check in on and report back on, certainly feel free to reach out to me and share those thoughts, and we can build those into our audit plan. That final document, that federal and state single audit document, houses two opinions that are both unmodified in nature. We had no compliance issues that we found in testing federal and state grants. Everything was as expected in that audit, and nothing but good news to note there. I do have to carry the material weakness that we note over financial reporting through that report, but again, not unusual to have that. And if I didn't mention before, 95% of the clients that I work with, and all I do is service municipalities and school districts across Wisconsin and the Midwest, 95% of them receive that comment. So again, it's a very common decision to be made. So with that, those are my prepared remarks. I'll pause, happy to answer any questions that you may have for me.
Any board questions? Doesn't appear to be any questions, Paul.
Sounds good. Well, again, feel free at any point throughout the year to reach out to me and use me as a resource and advisor along the way. But again, privileged to work with the district, and appreciate everything that Susie and team did.
Good.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank
All
you.
right, that's all, guys. We'll see you later.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
And thank you, Susie, for a job well done.
Nice job.
All right, moving right along, we'll get to our student representative that we have present. Ms. Hope, you have the floor.
Okay. So the end of the semester is next week Friday. Our grades will be finalized and our semester classes will come to an end. Then our new semester classes will start the following week. Holiday week, seniors won holiday week this year, which means they had the highest combined score between dress-up days, flex time competitions, and spirit sticks cheering. They received an ice cream dessert during lunch for winning. Yesterday, our AP Biology class took a field trip to Promega Lab in Madison. The students performed 2 labs instructed by the scientists there. They deepened their knowledge about DNA replication in a lab and how genetically modified organisms are created. Overall, the students learned a lot and enjoyed their trip. The sophomore class will be having a chili supper as a class-funded fundraiser this Friday night, starting at 5 p.m. for the Marshall boys basketball game. You are all invited to enjoy our chili dinner before the game. Literary Food Truck Festival. We'd like to invite the school board to a fun activity that our English 4 class does. The students create a literary food truck and relate it to a book they read. Students put together the food that goes with the theme of the book and will present their truck to the class. The festival is on January 15th from 2:45 to 3:15 p.m. in the community room. The students are excited to show their creativity to everyone with their projects. Hopefully you can join us. FBLA will be having a regional on February 1st in Middleton. If they place in the top 4 in regionals, they will qualify for state. FFA had a poinsettia sale that went well in December. They had over $200 in profits and sold over 70 plants. The fruit sale was also a successful fundraiser for FFA. FFA Week will be February 17th through the 19th and will include fun dress-up days as well as FFA-related flex time activities. The FFA banquet is not official yet, but will be sometime in mid-April. Winter sports update. The girls' basketball record is 1-7, or 1-7. The boys' basketball record is 0-7. Our wrestling team has won 4 duels overall. Our hockey team won last night's game. All of our sports teams are continuing to improve themselves with every game or competition. Do you have any questions?
Questions? Sounds busy. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, we will roll into administrative reports. First up is Mr. Bartelt. We'll talk about gearing up for high school. You have the floor.
Good evening. Yeah, everyone can hear okay?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you, Marissa, for talking about what's going on at the high school. Really appreciate it. Nice job presenting. Just want to touch base. I think I've talked to the board about this in years past, but I know there's some of you that are a little new and want to get you caught up to speed. I would want to say maybe 3 or 4 years ago, we started at the high school gearing up for high school night for our current 8th graders. And this is a really good opportunity for our 8th grade students to get to learn about what we all offer at the high school academically and with our co-curriculars. Myself, Mr. Copeland, and our teachers present on the academic side of what classes we all offer in the high school. And then our freshman students specifically go ahead and schedule their classes already for next school year. They pick their electives of what they want to choose. They kind of put together their wish list. After we get done with the scheduling part, this is all in the cafeteria. We go into our commons, and that's where we have coaches and advisors and current high school students each have a table, and they present about the opportunities that we offer in the high school. We've kind of evolved this over the years. I want to say the first year, we just simply did the academic side of it and scheduling, and now we've opened it up to our co-curriculars. And I've had some really good feedback from families. Prior to this, it was simply just freshman students picking out classes during the school day. We didn't involve families. So this is a good family engagement opportunity. I know some of you board members have been part of this in the past years because you've had students go through from 8th grade to 9th grade. So again, just kind of want to update, we're really excited for this opportunity to have our 8th graders come up to the high school and learn a little bit more and do the scheduling process. And that will be, we're looking at February 3rd, so the first Monday in February, we will have this event. And it is a required event for all current 8th grade students. Any questions or clarification with what that gearing up for high school all entails?
Nope. Not hearing any, Sean.
Sounds good. Thank you, everyone.
All right, thank you. We'll move to Ms. Seaman to talk about early literacy, the remediation plan.
So Mrs. Beacon is going to join me because we have been working on this together. So yeah, here's a chair for you. Oh, I don't know. And Susie is going to scroll us through. We did include in your board packet a draft of the plan that we have been working on. The plan is a requirement due to Act 20, and since it has been published in your board packet, we have made some changes and alterations, so we wanted to make sure that we shared those with you. So what you are seeing is a 95% finalized plan. We have put it in the template from DPI, but when it is published, we will take everything out and reformat it into a nice website document, okay? So we wanted to make sure that you saw that all of the sections that were required from the plan are included. So in the plan, we have our introduction, which includes the district vision and mission. And then we have an early literacy vision and mission, which is a little bit down farther.
You want to scroll for us, Susie? There we go.
Pretty straightforward. You know, we absolutely want to foster a love of reading and writing in our youngest learners, and that is part of what Act 20 was also trying to instill in districts. So with our universal approach, our standards, you have already reviewed and approved all the standards that we are using from the state. Our instructional framework for a plan includes all of the different components that are foundational skills for literacy. And we have included in this plan some examples, because when it's published, some people might not know what phonological awareness is or phonemic awareness, so we've given examples of the types of activities that our teachers in the elementary will be doing with students. And then if we scroll a little bit further, we have different activities. If you have questions on any of this along the way, please let me know.
These are all of the activities and the things that our teachers have been trained on. That was part of Act 20 as well. We did reading training, right, in all of these areas.
So you remember we had all of our teachers do the keys to beginning literacy modules, and then they attended some professional development. So those are all the different components. Our curriculum, we just have a statement in here that the Waterloo School District uses curriculum resources that are aligned with those Wisconsin state standards, and our curriculum is vetted and adopted according to board policies. We have a statement in here about positive behavior expectations, that the Waterloo Elementary School uses PBIS as our framework for classroom and school behavior expectations. And then we have a statement about our EMLSS system, which is formerly RTI, but it's our equitable multi-level systems of supports. And that this system includes universal instruction, supplemental interventions, and intensive interventions. So in section 2, with the strategic early literacy assessment system, we have in here our screening windows. So 4K is not required to screen with Ames Web Plus until spring. So that testing window is in there. And we have anything in yellow is not complete. So we will put the date in there when we decide when in that window 4K will be testing, because there's a requirement that the letter has to be sent within 15 days of the scoring of the assessments, okay? For 5K through 3, they are just entering their first assessment window. The window opened on December 1st. Holly chose to wait until after Christmas break, so they will be testing.
Next week, we're gonna start, well, some even tomorrow or Friday, and trying to really finish the assessments by the end of next week. So we can use our professional development day on January 20th to do some of the other work that you're gonna hear about. So,
Okay. If we scroll a little bit more, we have listed out the diagnostic literacy assessments that the school district is using, a description of the assessment and the skill areas that it hits. So once the benchmark assessment is done for Ames Web Plus, students that fall into that category of intensive intervention will have a diagnostic, so a different assessment to kind of narrow the focus and identify the skill deficit. If we go a little bit further, we listed other relevant assessment data like our access testing and our forward exam for grade 3 would qualify here as data points. And in section 3 are different student supports. So once a deficient skill is identified, then there are different interventions based on the area of need. Going a little further, there is a little description of personal reading plans. That's a requirement of Act 20. So any student falling below the 25th percentile on the reading readiness screener will have a personal reading plan. And we have in there a link to it. So Susie, could you click on the link?
This way.
Yep,
Yeah.
right there.
So this is a template for what the reading plan will look like. It will have the student name, grade, the diagnostic that was used, results, next steps. So there's little drop downs there for us identifying exactly what test was used, and yep, the different tests for the different grade levels. So different grade levels have different assessments that are used. And then we'll check the area of growth that the student needs, the intervention that's used down below there, the resource that is used, and then if you have a goal statement, yep, and then keep going down a little bit more.
Progress monitoring,
Yep,
that's a requirement weekly. Students are progress monitored to see if they're achieving the goal or have a trend line that's matching the goal that we set for them.
part of the plan requirements are success criteria, so this is how they could be potentially dismissed from a reading plan, strategies, and the parent will be meeting with the classroom teacher to okay the plan and sign off on it, or if an in-person meeting can't be held, then we'll mail the plans home and the parent will need to sign it and return it. We also have, and you'll see in a different part of our remediation plan, a family survey that is required as part of the reading plan, which we will attach.
And then in 10 weeks, we do have to update the parents of students with a reading plan on their progress and how it's going. So, and then we reassess. And then the window opens again in the spring.
Okay, we go back to the remediation plan, yeah. So part of the requirements from the state of Wisconsin is to post on our website their informational guidebook on dyslexia and related conditions, so that's straight from the DPI website. And we will get that on our website. We are also required to include in our remediation plan our board promotion, placement, and retention policy. So this here is directly from the board policies for students up to grade 3, because that's what this plan addresses. A little bit more further. We included, which is not in your packet, a summer school reading support statement.
Sure. Following the spring benchmark assessment, so the next set of assessments. So following that, students that remain on our personal reading plan will be recommended to attend a reading class during summer school. Parents will have the option of having their child attend. If a parent chooses not to have their child attend summer school, the parent will document refusal. So we just want to make sure that we're sending that out to parents and that they know. And if they say, no, we just can't, then we at least have some documentation that says that we reached out. So it's part of our summer school. And we do have that as part of our summer school, math and reading. Kind of, we don't call it math and remediation, but we have this intervention, reading and math, summer school classes. So.
For the exit criteria, we have consolidated what's in your board packet. We had taken different criteria listed from the state of Wisconsin and put it in our draft form, but it is now consolidated into this statement, which is what we put on the personal reading plan, okay? And family and community engagement. cover letter that we are going to send out to all families for K-3. If you want to click on that, Suzie, yep, that one. So it is a 2-page letter that talks about what is Act 20, why are we doing this, information on things that we are already doing, and how they align with what Act 20 is asking us to do. So if you scroll down a little bit more, you want to talk about what we're already
Yeah,
doing?
so one of the things that we wanted to make sure that we talked about in this family letter was how this will look in Waterloo, and the fact that we're already doing all of this work in Waterloo. We're already doing fall, winter, spring assessments for reading. Now we are going to be adding in the 1 or 2 assessments that we have to do at each grade level that the whole state of Wisconsin is doing. And then from that, again, one of the things that we're doing we already have really great interventionists who are working with our kids. Teachers are working in intervention groups with their students. The thing that is changing is an actual physical plan that's going home to families, and really that sort of family engagement, or that family piece that goes with it, right? Kind of expecting and sending home things to families. Here's what you can do to help your child. Here's the plan for them. Here's our goal for them. Here's how you can help. Here's when we're going to meet. So all of that. So it's a little bit more like formal and in a written form. But all of the things that are in Act 20 are things that we are kind of already doing in Waterloo. We're just beefing them up a little bit. So then we added all the pieces, like what does this mean for your child? They're going to get a reading plan, that's going to come home. There's going to be a little bit more communication between home and school, and keeping that family involved. And one of the things that we're going to make sure that's in my monthly newsletter are things families can do. Our interventionists are working on, different things that families can do, and really just making sure that everyone stays involved and informed about what we're trying to help their children be the best readers they can be.
So one of the questions that we have for the board, and this is a 4-page document, because if you scroll down the next 2 pages, we've had it translated into Spanish. We are asking the board if you would like us to mail this home for K-3, or if you would like us to send it electronically. How would you like us to make families aware?
What's the consensus?
Is everybody electronically connected?
Most, I would say not all. I can't say 100%.
I think when I send out my monthly s'more to my families, I usually end up with at least between 100 and 150 views on that s'more, and I know so that's not everyone. So
Yeah, I was going to ask. So if you get 100, 150 views, how many are you sending out?
I'm sending it to all. I'm sending it pre-K4.
So what's that number?
Well, I have almost 300 students. So how many families?
A little over 200 families, probably.
Yeah. So I mean, it's close. I mean, but.
I think it should be mail.
Do you-
School, US mail.
Do you want us to mail it, or would you be comfortable with us just making copies and having teachers? At the elementary school, we have take-home folders. It's different than ISMS because they don't have that, and who would give it to them. But with our teachers, they can just put those right in their take-home folders. It could go in that way and electronically if we could do both. And I'm gonna put it in my s'more in January.
That's
It's gonna be like 3 ways. Does that? So I think we don't have to actually mail it. I would recommend putting it in take-home folders, have Sarah blast it out electronically, and then have me link it in my s'more again. And do you think that's good?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so we're gonna go back to the plan then. I promise we only have a couple more parts. It's pretty long. So family notification, underneath the letter that we just talked about is the family history survey. I think it's 4 questions, and these came directly from DPI also. So they want to know parents' perception of their child's interest in reading. Have they ever been recommended for summer reading interventions or support? Has your child ever been recommended to receive reading or writing tutoring services outside of the school? And has anyone in the family been diagnosed with dyslexia or experienced difficulty with reading and spelling, either as a child or adult? So these, again, we translated into Spanish, which would be attached to the reading plan that is sent home.
Yeah, so the reading plan gets sent home with this. It does, we'll probably send 2 copies home to parents, one for them to keep, one for them to sign and send back, if we don't meet with them in person.
Okay, all right, back to the plan. We have listed here family and community engagement strategies. We always want to make sure that families are coming into the school and being involved, but the activities that we have historically done are open house, parent-teacher conferences, Title I parent nights, and meetings as needed. And the last section is strategic use of data. So this is a piece that we need your input on. As part of the plan, we should list how the school board uses assessment results in order to evaluate early literacy instruction. It says in the template that the plan should include all of the required district reading specialist tasks to complete an annual evaluation of the LEA, which is the school's comprehensive literacy curriculum.
So that was the narrative from the DPI, so that's what they wanted us to, and then we wrote.
Yep, we recommend that reports shared with the board at the conclusion of each benchmark period. So reports are shared with you, including the number of students falling below the 25th percentile. And we would like to look a little deeper into that data and see what areas, so if you remember those pillars of literacy, was it vocabulary, was it comprehension, phonics, phonemic awareness, which of those areas we have the greatest need so that we can review potential resources or more professional development for our teachers.
So that was the prompt from the DPI, and then we sort of.
That's our recommendation.
What do you think of that?
Thoughts? More questions for clarification?
I think it's a pretty good whole plan to have that be that.
So that means we would share fall, winter, spring results with you.
And we can always have more. This is our general recommendation for our published early literacy remediation plan. So if there's other data that you want, you always can ask for that.
When you analyze the data, will it speak also to the curriculum or just for more development or training for teachers?
I'm hoping that it identifies holes in our universal instruction. So the system and the resource that we're using now, does it, and this is just an example, does it not do a good job of helping teachers teach phonics or writing or comprehension or vocabulary? So I want to use our data in order to see where our current resources are lacking.
So I would think it'd also be paramount to take that to the curriculum committee.
Correct.
When we're
Yes.
looking at the,
Yes.
to analyze the data at least 3 times a year is what I heard, I believe.
Okay.
As a board member, it might be nice to hear from some of the teachers or interventionalists actively working on those plans at a presentation around the data as well.
Okay.
It'd be nice to hear their experience.
Yeah.
Yep. And our plan is on January 20th for us to be working on those plans as a big group. So I'd be happy in February to let you know how the teachers feel about it. We're ready, we're doing it. So.
Any other questions on the plan as a whole or the information included in there?
Plan seems pretty comprehensive to me. Is there a deadline in which it has to be finalized, or does it have to be posted for DPI, or
I
any
would
requirements?
assume that we need to post it within, because we'll have the dates for the family letters and things, so I'm assuming that within the
posted on the website. I'd like to send the letter home sooner rather than later, because we are gonna start doing the assessments, and we are gonna be creating the plans on January 20th. If this, if you guys, obviously we wanted to wait till we talked with you and made sure that you didn't have any other questions, but I'd like to kind of get the letter sent out and kind of, whether or not this plan is posted on the website. I don't know if that's a requirement, but I'd like to get the family letter sent out so that parents know what's gonna be coming.
As soon as we have that letter sent out, I think we need to have information on the website.
I would agree.
And what's the standard data point that the DPI is gonna be looking at across districts?
So they're blanketly looking at the amount of students that are below the 25th percentile. Part of the state report card eventually will include the number of students in third grade that are below the 25th percentile. So that will be included
And,
eventually.
yeah, and, the state of Wisconsin picked one assessment. So they picked Ames Web Plus, and in Ames Web Plus, each grade level has different assessments that they have to give. For instance, second and third grade, first, second, and third grade, the whole 25th percentile is based on a oral reading fluency number. So it's kind of all about, we give a 1-minute assessment, and then we give twice, and then they give them a nice average score and their cut scores to decide who falls then below what Ames Web Plus has decided is below the 25th percentile in an oral reading fluency. That's the only measure that they're looking at. Kindergarten is a composite score of a couple of different things because they don't do an oral reading fluency assessment, but the other grade levels are all just that assessment. So then we know that we have to take a little bit of that with a grain of salt, just because that's the only thing we're looking at.
Any other questions? The board, I guess I heard the question of wanting to get it out as quickly as possible. Is there anybody that's a problem with that?
Sounds good.
So,
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
thank you. All right, before we roll forward here, Ms. Armentrout, we have some guests in the room from our custodial staff. So I want to pause and gather their input. Because I'm sure they don't want to sit in the meeting here and wait for us to get to this point. Why they've been asked, and Mr. Henny can certainly fill in any voids. We have an agenda or action item this evening to talk again about concessions in the field house. We, as a board, decided to let that occur for the tail end of last year and for a spring event. And if you would, by all means, you have the floor. Let us know how that went, or if you could tell a difference after it was officially allowed, and give us your thoughts, please, as you're the people who
Yeah, I don't know if everybody knows you guys, but if you could introduce yourself and before you speak, and maybe just tell us how many years you've been in the district too.
I'm Roger Hupkey. I've been here for going on 16 years, and I'm a Saturday person, so I get most of the cleanup on Saturday, and most of the events are on Saturday.
I'm Tia, I've been here for 10 years.
I'm Jim Schultz, I've been here 15 years. 10 years full-time, 4 years part-time, 5 years part-time. I'm a custodian at the other end, but I do get up here to help. As far as food in the field house, there's a number of things. The bleachers are kind of porous. And if you get Gatorade or any food on them, it stains them, and it's very hard to get it out. To keep it looking nice. Kids throw food at one another, there's a mess in there. And as far as allergies, wouldn't nobody be worried about
to stay as nice as it is now. Food should not be allowed in the field house at all. The commons and the cafeteria are sufficient. I've noticed that the people enjoy that because now they'll go find a table and eat together as a group. The only thing I can suggest is that the AD lets the visiting teams with wrestling and basketball and other events, let them know that the food's not allowed in the field house. And that way they'll be prepared when they are told they can't go in there with the food. Mostly wrestling brings their own food. But I've never, lately, with the new signage, we put a lot of different signs up, hear people complaining that they can't go in there to eat. And the last few events, the Weissel is sold out of all the food, and they offer a lot of different things. So I don't see it being a deterrent to keep food out of the field house.
Do you find that people are ignoring it at all?
Some.
Once in a while, usually younger, the adults are pretty responsible, will try to walk in there, and if somebody sees them, they'll turn right back around and sit down and eat it. And the ones, the little ones will, if their parents are foolish enough to give them food to run around with, they'll try to get in there. But the big picture is no. The only thing we've been finding lately is popcorn and maybe a spill or two of Gatorade, something like that that's difficult and hard on the bleachers and the floors. And one other thing is that, like, on events like during the week, we have, these people have their own area to do, so we only have a limited amount of time to clean up. So if we add to that burden, other areas suffer. It's kind of a manpower thing. So if we don't have to go in there for huge messes or a lot of food, it's much easier to do the commons and the cafeteria with the limited amount of people we have available to do that job, because the next morning it's got to be ready to roll for the next day. That's my opinion.
Any specific questions, board members, or? So we certainly thank you for coming, and obviously listening to the long tenure that you've been here. We really appreciate your dedication to the district. It means a lot.
Well, thanks for your service.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, back to the agenda. We will turn it over to Ms. Armentrout to talk about the open enrollment seats available.
Good evening, everyone. I am going to share my screen so that I can hopefully present. All right, can everyone see that?
Yes.
Perfect. I know this is in your packet too. I wanted to make sure that we had, all of the information available, but I'm happy to present my recommendations for special education open enrollment for the next school year. And again, at this annual presentation, I really like to go over how space determination occurs with the special education realm. And so I'm going to walk you through kind of step by step how that transpires. So I go through and review each case manager, each special education teacher's caseload. I look at every student's IEP and the projected enrollment to determine workload. And I also consider if the teacher or related service provider's projected workload is above what we would recommend. And if that occurs, then the conclusion is that there are no seats or no space available for that type of special education or related service for the next school year. So just to kind of back it up, space is defined as the district's capacity to meet the needs of students with IEPs. And available space cannot accurately be determined by a set number of special education seats. and I'll get to that in the next slide. But I wanted to also take this opportunity when we're looking at special education and special education teachers, we really like to think about the two buckets of direct services that are provided and indirect services. And so direct services are the special educator working directly with the student to provide that specially designed instruction, accommodations, and related service. And then the indirect services are sort of the behind the scenes pieces, the special education teacher working on behalf of the students. So that would be writing and planning for IEPs, holding meetings, designing instruction, creating accommodations and modifications, involving families, being involved in evaluations, observing students, and then going into classrooms to provide program modifications for teachers and coaching paras, and then collecting data for documentation. So oftentimes in the past, in a variety of districts, caseload was the determining factor. We would come up with a number and sort of decide that this was the number we were going to cap it at. We have moved from a caseload vantage point to a workload vantage point. And so again, I just want to point out the difference. When you're looking at caseload, it's literally the number of students that a special education teacher oversees. Each student is counted as one, no matter the needs or severity. When we're looking at workload, we're looking at all of those responsibilities required on behalf of the special education teacher. And again, that's based on the intensity of the student's particular needs. So DPI really doesn't give any recommendations on caseloads. We are left to figure that out on ourselves. So when we consider workload, we're looking at the amount of services. How many minutes per week is that student receiving specially designed instruction, for example? The intensity of pupil needs, how often is that special education teacher may be called to help support the student in real time, and then the type of staff that are needed to address the various needs. Our speech and language pathologists, our occupational therapists, our our paraprofessionals, and our PT. So I just included some pieces when we're thinking about the importance of workload to determine caseload or to determine numbers. Using a student's needs approach to caseload determination is really the most advantageous. We need to be able to find a balance of the intensity of the student needs and the teacher responsibilities. We also want to consider reasonable workloads to ensure that that the educational benefit and access to free and appropriate public education occurs. And then we also want to make sure we're taking into account our ability to retain special education teachers and other staff. So that's kind of the background. Now I kind of want to move into exactly how that workload is determined. So in step one, a service matrix analysis is given per student that receives special education. I'm going to show you what that looks like. Then we also take into account the projected enrollment per level. We look at the direct service minutes in the IEP, and then we take a look at the average level of need on the caseload. So this is an example of a service matrix, and it is divided basically into academic and behavioral needs, and again, done per student. Each student is then categorized, again, just to sort of give us that bird's eye view when we're looking at what's a reasonable workload. After that is done for each of our students, then I look at projected enrollment. That's based on obviously the current number of students that we have, and then I look historically at the last 3 years of our enrollment numbers. Then I take into account the number of referrals that are currently in process, and then also students that are on kind of on the radar from our collaborative team meetings or PLCs. In your packet, I think it's around page 41, I just included kind of the worksheet that I use that has a listing of all the students that are currently enrolled to determine, again, what that workload looks like. So you have that to refer to. And then that brings me to my final recommendation. So I've sort of categorized it a little bit differently for this year, hopefully to kind of simplify it. So I put our students that receive special education into grade bands, and then indicated how many special education teachers we have dedicated to those bands, and then look at the actual numbers of students that are in those grade bands or will be in those grade bands for 25-26. And then using that matrix, I was able to kind of quantify what the workload would be, and that, you know, what we would cap the workload max at to keep that balance of making sure that we can really ensure that we're serving our students well. So that allows me to make that determination at each of those grade band levels that our current reality in the coming school year is that we have no space when we're looking at special education, kind of cross-categorical, from our EC through high school plus. And then last, I include our SLPs. And so at this time, we have 2 full-time SLPs. Currently, they are divided based on our numbers, serving students in early childhood through grade 2, and then they sort of share some students in grade 2, and our second SLP serves students between grades 2 and 12. So again, that shows you the current number of students on each caseload. Then you can see the number of initial evaluations we have so far in the year, considering the year is half over, and again, looking at the historical data, typically the number of initial evaluations is really heavy in that EC through grade 2. So I project for the next school year that we're going to be looking at, you know, between 45 and 50 students per caseload. My recommendation is to try to keep it around that 45 mark. And again, so my recommendation for speech and language would be that we have no available seats for 25-26. And then I just always like to remind the board that even if we determine today that no space is available, if we have an open enrollment application, I am required to take in the IEP from that family, from that student, and review it to determine if that is the current reality in our district. So again, even if we close the seats, we still take case by case and review each of those IEPs that come in if we have an open enrollment request. And that kind of ends my presentation. Are there any questions on the recommendations for 25-26?
I do have a question, Michelle. Is our current situation comparable to other districts in the area and of our size?
Yeah, that's a really great question. In fact, I just had a area directors meeting, and we're finding more and more that that districts are closing for special education. Staffing is just really difficult to come by, and the needs of our students, you know, vary and are vast, and so we're seeing very similar situations in other districts, especially in the area.
And the simple solution, if I could put air quotes on simple, the only way to increase the capacity would be increasing staff to allow for us to have more students.
I mean, yes, if you want to simplify it, yes, that would solve it.
Any other questions, board members?
This plan here is to turn away open enrollment students that need or have special needs?
My recommendations and the work, the matrix, the worksheets that we go through, I use to try and help put a picture as to why we don't have available services or space for students that don't reside in our district currently, for the next school year. And we look at this each and every year, and again, like I said, even if we would follow the recommendations and close the space, each and every open enrollment application, if it's the student with an IEP, comes up, on my desk and is reviewed to make sure that nothing has changed. So for example, if we've had students move out and we have available space, then, they might be, we might be able to serve them. But at this time, when we're looking at our current level of needs and we're looking at the current staffing that we have, it would be hard to open our doors and allow anyone to open it, basically.
Can you tell me how many current students open enrolled into the district that have special needs?
How many that we have already accepted?
Yes.
You can actually look at the chart because
Yeah,
anyone.
I believe it's, sorry.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Michelle.
if you look at 41, I believe it's about 7.
Yeah,
when
the
we're
names
looking
are
at-
blacked out, but the resides in school is still in there.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
And again, any student that is potentially leaving our district is going to be, with special needs, would be hard pressed to find a district to accept them in the area. Again, meaning that we're going to be keeping more of our students that require special education services, because there just aren't many area districts that, they're in the same boat. Staffing is difficult, needs are high, and so we just want to ensure that the students that reside in our district are getting our very best, and that we balance that the amount of work that it takes to serve a variety of needs with the reality. So that's what I try to do with kind of that matrix, and it's looked at again student by student and year by year.
Any other questions? Thank you, Michelle.
Absolutely.
We will move to Susie to talk, I guess, more about the audit or comments about the audit.
Yeah, I'll keep it pretty brief. There were no changes in it from the last time I reported on the preliminary or draft audit. Those all stay the same. I'm happy with the results. There are no journal entries. My goal is next to work on the financial statements and do those so we're not having that finding. But I just kind of want to put that out there if you guys have any questions. And, all through the year, you guys are always welcome to ask questions.
I had a question. This is the first time you worked with Baker Tilly?
Yes.
It was a brand new set of auditors?
Yes.
Was it more work this time bringing them up to speed or training them or teaching them? Or just working with a new auditor in general? Was it more work for you to do so?
Yes, but you also, when you switch auditors, you learn new things, which is always really nice. So their formats were different, so I had to change some of our things, but I also made some improvements because I liked the way they did it. I missed the relationship that I had with Monica and at our last firm, but these guys were really great to work with. They were quick to respond. It was a really positive experience. I've used them again. Or, we are using them again. I mean,
Yep.
I enjoyed working with
Good,
them.
get ready for next year?
Yeah. So, yeah, they're very thorough. In different areas, which is nice, because you have one really well, and then they helped you improve in this other one that, the other one you're. So it was a great experience.
Great. Any other questions?
And if you guys do not want your books, I can keep them in my office as well. Otherwise, take them home with you.
Okay. Good light reading. All right. Thank you, Susan, and job well done. We'll turn it over to Mr. Henning to discuss a few items.
Well, speaking of books and reading, brought along a couple of copies tonight of the book that the administrative team is gonna start reading. And some teachers grabbed some copies this week too, although we didn't hand it out district-wide, but it's called The Anxious Generation, and I have a few copies if any board member wants to read one. If you've ever thought in the last 5 or 10 years that kids are different these days, and you weren't really sure why, this outlines that very well, and then gives practical solutions for schools and governments and parents on what to do to change that, and I think you'll find it very interesting. So we're going to see how the book study goes with the admin team and some of the teachers, and then maybe expand it throughout the whole school. And if it's well received, maybe try to do something with the greater community as well. Has anyone in here read it?
I've read a different book called Generation Anxiety. It was written by a clinical therapist, really focusing on millennials and Gen Zs, helping them to identify why they are different and then problem solve how they get through it. So probably very similar.
Yeah. So I'll pass it around. You can look at it, and if you want a copy, grab it. If everyone wants a copy, we'll get some more.
Yep.
Do you have a few takeaways from this, Ben?
I don't want to ruin the book, but
Get to the end.
yeah.
I think one of the key takeaways I took from the book that I read was this generation genuinely faces the fear of a mass school shooting, and where my husband and I have discussed it, we faced hiding under our desk because of potential nuclear bomb, right? But it wasn't a reality to us. That was not reality. But kids today can open their phone and see this reality that they're training for 324 times in 2024, right? It happened across this country 324 times. And so they see that, so that truly does heighten their anxiety and change their perception of the world they live in every day. And so the skill set they need to have to manage that anxiety is very different from the skill set that I grew up with.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's 100% talked about in the book as well.
Any comments regarding the operating referendum?
Yeah, just a couple updates on that. There's a letter going out to parents in the community this week, inviting them to be part of that advisory committee that the board voted to establish last board meeting. We have started hearing some of the initial reports from legislators on what's going to happen in the budget biennium, because I think we were all sort of secretly hoping that legislators would come through and there'd be money and we'd be less stressed about how we were going to make ends meet going forward. You know, each side has sort of taken a position and it's early, so maybe can't put too much stock in what either side's saying, but it doesn't sound like we're going to get anything substantial if the one side has their way. And so, you know, I think we've all sort of came to the conclusion that an operating referendum is inevitable, and some of the initial discussions seem to point to that as well. And then the other thing I wanted to bring up, and I don't think we've ever talked about it in this group, but a number of years ago there was a state statute passed that actually penalized school districts that failed referendums. And there's some discussion about reversing that statute, and we're kind of studying to see exactly how those penalties work. We actually were in jeopardy of it the last time as well, but since we failed one and then we passed one, it sort of negated that. So we really want to be careful going forward that if we fail one, it actually penalizes the district on dollars received through state aid because they failed the referendum. So what's the wisdom behind that? I'll leave that for you to decide, but it's something that we have to be aware of too. You know, I think we're going to have to work really hard to get ready and educate the public about what our needs are. And I know you've asked for some data, and we're working on that as well. But operating referendum certainly is looking like it's in our future.
And for me, when, based on the audit report, running our disposable dollars at 24%, kind of at the top end of that range already. So again, it kind of points towards the operating room right now. Can't think of the right terms, folks, but you know what I mean.
Any other comments, questions? All right, we'll move forward here. Move right along to the approval of bills and vouchers. We've got the treasurer's report, the superintendent listing of disbursements through December 31st, and the district receipts. Are there any unanswered questions that remain in regards to those statements? I have one question, probably not, I guess, pertinent to the statements. I'm just curious because I see, I believe it's collecting dues for members in the facility over here. I'm just curious on our enrollment, are we gaining members, are we holding steady with the community members that utilize the facilities?
I haven't gotten these numbers recently from Janessa, I'd have to ask.
Yeah, we could get that for you.
Yeah, I can get that.
My hunch is that it's holding steady, but maybe we can get that exact data for you.
Short-term spike in the new year, but I'm just curious to know.
Yeah,
we haven't
we'll get
talked
that.
about
We've done really well, but yeah, no major spikes or major drop-offs, but whether we're, up 30 or down 20, I don't know, we'll have to get it for you.
Okay. Any other questions on statements? Disbursements or receipts?
Here's one I'm looking at, special ed and school-age parent. Does that mean we have a youngster that's a parent that has?
It's how they label that special ed funding. I just put it in how it comes right from the DPI, just so the verbiage is there, but it's our special ed funding.
That's in the revenue.
That's in, yeah.
You're looking at the revenue.
The revenue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, but it was a $69,000 category, so it kind of.
Yeah, we get those throughout the year.
That's just what it's labeled when it comes from the CPI. Yeah.
I will move to approve the treasurer's report, superintendent's listing of disbursements, and the district receipts for the month of December.
Is there a second to that? All right, so a motion on the floor by Ms. Kwame, seconded by Mr. Yurgis to approve all three reports as presented, and that is a roll call vote.
Craig, yes.
Dolphin, yes?
Schneider, yes.
Kwame, yes.
Curious, yes.
All right, motion carries on a 6-0 vote. Moving to announcements, one announcement this evening, and try not to butcher the name, but we had a member of our staff partake in a sabbatical benefit that Waterloo offers. Our elementary Spanish teacher, Damaris Milfred, hopefully I said that correctly, she was able to take a trip home to see family and has brought back 4 board members to sample some, Honduran coffee beans. With some bags, you can take some beans and grind it up and have some coffee as appreciation, so.
How many years has she been with the district?
I'm guessing 6, 7?
I was gonna say 7 or 8.
Yeah.
6, okay.
6, 7, 8, like that. But she was born in Honduras, her family still lives in Honduras, and was just very appreciative. She is never able to get back there. She has an ailing mother, so she was able to go back and see family and also see her ailing mother, and just really could not, be more appreciative, and wanted to extend that to the board too. That, it just seems more and more as we talk with those staff members that come back from those opportunities, we sort of sold it as a once in a lifetime opportunity to do something that you don't normally get to do, and it really seems to be turning out that way, and so people are extra appreciative of it.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, it's good stuff. All right, we will open the floor to any public input. Does anyone want to provide public input? Seeing as how we don't have any public, right along. We'll get into new business. Action item A, seat limits for open enrolled students. We just received a presentation from Ms. Armentrout, and the recommendations are presented here. Is there any further discussion before we vote?
seems to be the way it is. I know that finding teachers is just tough, so I don't see any other way around it. So I will move for approval.
Okay, got a motion on the floor by Mr. Crave, seconded by Mr. Yurgis to approve the seat limits as recommended. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries on a 6-0 vote. Action item B is the 2025 summer school dates as listed in your packets. Looks like we have summer school for the high school tentatively June 9th through July 3rd. For the ISMS school from June 16th through July 3rd. And finally for the elementary from June 16th through July 3rd. It's recommended that those dates be approved as presented. Any discussion regarding summer school dates?
I'll move for approval.
Second.
Okay, I've got a motion on the floor by Mr. Crave, seconded by Mr. Dolphin, to approve the summer school dates as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries on a 6-0 vote. Action item C, we have administrative contracts. It is recommended that contracts be renewed for Sean Bartelt, Christine Zeman, Holly Beacon, Michelle Armentrout, Susie Daniels, and Brian Henning. Any discussion on said administrative contracts?
No matter how I feel, they're also hard to find. I move for approval.
Okay, I've got a motion on the floor by Mr. Craig, seconded by Mr. Farry, excuse me. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries on a 6-0 vote. Then we move to, out of step in your former packet, but correct on the agenda, concessions in the field house. Was asked to be brought forward by a board member to discuss allowing concessions in the field house. I believe, my recollection, we allowed it for a trial period. We heard input this evening, so we can go either way. We could allow it, or we could continue down the road we're on right now, because our current policy says it's not allowed. Am I correct in making that statement? Any discussion on the concessions in the field house?
I don't know of other districts that don't allow anybody to bring anything into their gyms other than us. Maybe I'm not very well traveled.
There's definitely lots
Okay.
of, but, yeah,
Listen.
I don't know if I could list the list right off the top of my head, but.
Yeah, I'm aware of other districts that do that as well, but they tend to all be newer facilities as well. If you get to some of the data, that I think it's more laxed.
I never paid attention to it.
You just carry your popcorn and go.
Everything goes through Shattuck, but no.
I'm usually coaching, so I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, I want to be eating on the cafeteria anyway, and then I come in with my water bottle, so I didn't think about it, but I'm not really looking for a sign that says I can't do it.
I think one of the, obvious concerns is that the Booster Club, who has been, absolutely fabulous and very generous to us over the years, has lost revenue as a result of it. And I have no doubt that there probably is some lost revenue. But I'm not sure that, not having a JV girls team and only having 30 people in the stands for some basketball games isn't also part of the reason why the revenue is down from previous years. So it's probably a combination. But I can tell you that, anytime I talk with somebody on the street, the general consensus is you better take care of what you have, because more than likely, we're not gonna get anything new or replacement anytime soon. So my concern is just making sure that we keep everything as good as we can.
I will vote to maintain the policy of no food in the beverage in the field house.
Okay, we've got a motion on the floor by Mr. Mr. Crave, seconded by Mr. Yurgis. I just want to clarify, what your motion would be to just reaffirm our current policy.
Correct.
And there would be no concessions allowed in the field house.
Correct.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so motion will carry on a 4-2 vote. Let's see, get messed up here. Brings us to discussion for a policy meeting. Discussion item E. It's stated in your packet that Neola has released December updates, and it has a number of changes, so could we look to schedule a committee meeting to discuss the updated policies? Is there a targeted date in mind for the administration?
Just whatever works for you guys.
So are we trying to do it in the next 2 weeks? Do we have to schedule Neola, or is this just?
No, it was a pretty, we've actually already met with Scott, although we have some editing to do yet before we get you stuff to look at. So tomorrow or Friday probably would be a little too quick, but in the next 3-4 weeks would be fine. Depends on if you want to get it on the February agenda or not. You wouldn't have to, but.
I'd say the next 2 weeks is best for me.
How's the 20th look? It'll be a Monday?
Yeah, so are with me.
I don't know if I can make that day work, to be honest with you.
Okay. About 22nd?
The 20th, 21st, and 22nd, I have other requirements on the calendar.
Okay. Is next week too soon?
No.
Okay. 13th. Does that allow enough time for you guys?
Yep.
Would the 13th work?
Yep.
Yeah.
Could we go-
The 13th is the FFA alumni banquet. I would like to attend that if I could. I think Charlie usually go too.
All right.
So,
They need some good jokes.
How about 15th?
Next week, cool.
I am free that evening.
Next Wednesday? 15th?
You were the man.
Should we go 6
No, I'm
p.m.?
free that evening.
sure.
It's the only one.
6 p.m. work for you, Susan?
Yeah, 6 should be good.
All right, so we'll go the 15th, 6 p.m. All right, the next item up is the discussion item F, the school report card analysis. So we look to schedule a date to discuss the analysis. Is there a target date in mind?
That really can be any time. It could be summer, it could be next week, whatever you want to do.
It'd be nice to, well, I guess it would be considerate if we could get Ms. Cummings' input too, as far as availability. From the board members think. But it's probably definitely something we should be looking at. Thoughts?
I'd say, anytime a month from now onward, I'm kind of tied up the first week of January. But, excuse me. February, yeah.
When's the February meeting?
12th.
Could we try to target the 10th? February 10th?
I cannot do that evening.
Okay. About when is the March board meeting?
Also the 12th.
All right. Could we do March 10th?
It's open right now.
All right, can we tentatively plan for March 10th at 6 p.m.?
Right?
G. Up for a discussion, but unfortunately, well, we're one board member short, and it's my understanding that not all the surveys are filled out. So I would move that we would like to table this discussion to the next meeting. And if you've not been able to get this filled out yet, if you're gonna get it done,
Yeah, if anybody's having trouble or wants to come in and use a computer or needs access again, let us know, because I think there was only 4 out of the 7 completed, and probably should have a little better response than that before we do it.
When was the survey link sent out?
December 5th. I can resend it to you tomorrow or tonight, whatever.
Oh, there it is. I got it.
That was a while ago, Brian, did I do mine?
Oh, no,
I
it says,
believe so, yes.
so I've got an email from you that says you should receive it on the 5th, but I didn't actually get one. So yeah, I'll need to do that.
Okay.
so we will move that to the February meeting for discussion. All right, discussion item H. The WASB resolutions and 2025 education convention. In your packet, we have resolutions, and Mr. Craig is our resident expert on resolutions and voting convention. Is there anything someone would like to discuss in regards to the resolutions that we can steer our delegate in the right direction? There's a number of resolutions here.
They all seem like pretty reasonable resolutions, I thought, this year, yeah. A lot of good discussion about Monday, right?
Seem to be on task with things we discussed at the board and echo the same sentiment.
I didn't find anything controversial.
Didn't look like there were that many either, Charlie, that was good news too.
It is.
Slows down a little bit, yeah.
Well, Charlie, it seems like the board is trusting in you to vote.
See how it goes, I just may go in for that assembly and drink and come up. Let's see.
All right.
Very good. Fill in the downtime with jokes.
Yeah, they need them.
Doesn't seem to be a problem. All right, discussion item H, or I. The CPI Personnel Committee meeting. It's noted here that the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, CPI for November 2024 was 2.75. And the Personnel Committee meeting will need to meet to, in preparation rather, for the 2025-2026 contract season. So, is there a Personnel Committee meeting target date that we should look to schedule on? It's targeted here, it's not required till April or May, but probably something we should talk about in March.
Definitely way sooner than that, 'cause
February.
we'll have to, we want to try to get contracts out as soon as possible, because people want to know, but if we can talk about that maybe in the next 3-4 weeks, that would be great as well.
I'm sorry, who was on the personnel committee? I don't have that top of my head.
I think I might,
I'm not on that one.
we've only met once since I've been here though, so.
I thought it was Jeremy, Bill, and Sue, but maybe I'm wrong.
No, I'm on policy, curriculum, and finance.
Jeremy, Bill, and Sarah?
Yeah, Sarah's on there, I believe.
Yeah.
That might be it, yeah.
So when can you guys meet? I know we have to get with Sarah at guys can do anything the week of the 20th or the 27th.
What's the Wednesday of the?
The board meeting is the 12th in February.
I'm going to January, sorry, I don't have a calendar in front of me, but the last Wednesday in January,
That's the 29th.
29th, is that okay? Bill?
Let me see here.
I like Wednesdays.
Could we do it, there's a lot of due dates in January. Would it be possible to do it the first or second week in February? And then I can get all of the recordings done, because I want to make sure I have enough time to really get you guys some good data.
Yes.
Okay.
So
do like-
February 5th, would be the first week on Wednesday.
I cannot do it then.
Okay.
So the next one would be the,
12th is the board meeting.
oh, okay, so it's the one after that would be the.
I'm on vacation that week. Sorry.
Last time we did it before the board meeting, do you guys want to try that?
On the 12th, is the earlier?
Oh, how early can you get here?
Yeah, I'm here all the time, so it works for me.
Shouldn't be a problem for me.
Yeah, I gotta check my schedule here. So is it, you said it's, what, the 12th?
12th is the
Yeah.
scheduled board meeting.
Correct.
So maybe
Yeah,
if
we
we,
can,
so if we set like 4:30 or something?
Can you do that right, Bill?
get the other.
Can Sarah usually make those?
Yeah, that's what I was
Okay.
proposing, that Katusha she can do.
Yeah, I can do that. 4:30 and the 12th.
All right, 2/12 at 4:30 PM.
We'll double check this there.
Perfect.
We'll just tell her she has to be there.
Yeah, that's it.
It's one way schedule.
So it'll be.
All right, so notable other things on the calendar, upcoming events, the education convention is the 22nd through the 24th. And then as we've talked, we've got a meeting on February 12th, March 12th, and on the way, on the line. That concludes our business. Is there any future agenda items that need to be talked about or would like to be, board members would like on the next meeting agenda? All right. Who's gonna make the motion?
So move to adjourn.
Motion by Mr. Craves, seconded by Mr. Jurgis for adjournment. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries on a 6-0 vote, and the time is 8:03. Thank you, everyone.